Welcome back to Face the Nation. I'm John Dickerson. We're back again with Intelligence Chairman Devin Nunes. Mr. Chairman, I want to talk to you, still talking about this new leadership change in the House and what's coming up ahead. You've been critical at times of the very conservative members of your conference, and they have been critical of House leadership, saying that they're not making the most of opportunities to really push the president on conservative principles. So we have a fight over the debt limit, raising the debt limit, and then funding the government. How do you think those are going to play out in this new order?
Well, it's tough to say right now because you have the President of the United States, who is still the President of the United States, and he really has not been negotiating with the Congress. So there's no question that we would like to get some type of long-term structured deal, agreement with the Senate Democrats and the Senate Republicans and House and Republicans and Democrats, and a signature by the President of the United States. That is the best thing that can happen to this country if we're going to increase the debt limit. And I know what your next question is going to be. Do you think it needs to be, do you think it has to be raised? Look, I do think it has to be raised. You know, this is a country, we have to pay our bills. We do not want to default on our debt. But at the same time, the American people expect the budget to be balanced. They want the long-term unfunded liabilities of Medicare and Medicaid and Obamacare to be fixed. And that's really what's causing this friction, because you have a president who really hasn't wanted to do anything, and you have, I think, unrealistic expectations among the base of the Republican Party, and it puts us in a very difficult position.
How do you think Paul Ryan will be at managing those unrealistic expectations?
Well, the best thing about Paul Ryan is he really was the first member of Congress to put real solutions on the table. I remember when I first ran for office, you had people that say, well, we're going to lower taxes, and we're going to fix Medicare, and we're going to fix health care. Well, Paul Ryan's the guy who actually put these proposals into legislative text, into real bills that were scored. And he's run on those time after time. Even as the vice presidential nominee, he ran on these fixes to Medicare and health care. So it's those types of solutions that the American people expect the Republicans, who have been given this huge majority, they expect us to have real concrete solutions to America's problems.
I want to ask you about the hearings last week, the Benghazi hearings in which Secretary of State Hillary Clinton testified. How do you think those played out now that they're done?
Well, I think it's important for all of us to remember that Hillary Clinton is one of dozens and dozens of witnesses who needed to be interviewed. Hillary Clinton also is the one who decided she wanted to have the public display. The other people who have come in have done it privately. They did not want an open hearing. So clearly, she had it in her mind to make this a political grandstanding occasion, which she did very well. She's a very good politician. But at the end of the day, it was the first time that I had learned that there were emails that existed or transcripts of recordings about that she knew immediately that this was an al-Qaeda attack. Now remember, us on the Intelligence Committee, we knew the next morning, not necessarily that it was al-Qaeda, but we knew it was a terrorist pre-planned attack. And so it ends up that she knew that. So the question now that I would be asking if I'm on the Benghazi Committee is, we have an emergency response team at the State Department that was not deployed. And yet she knew it was a terrorist attack hours after the attack. And I think that is a real problem as to why the people sat at the State Department and never left.
Her testimony, and then also the CIA best information to the rest of the administration, was at first Ansar al-Sharia claimed credit for it, and then they withdrew it, and that's what led to this confusion. So at first she believed those reports, then they were withdrawn, and that's what made her change her position.
Yeah, so specifically there were different lines of intelligence. There was signals intelligence, there was word from the ground, there people that were on the ground, then there was the open source reporting. When you take that in its totality, I think it's tough to end up with a position where that this was because of some video of, that said something bad about the Prophet Muhammad. I just don't believe that, and I think that's what the Benghazi Committee has to get to the bottom of.
Well, there was a raid this week in Iraq in which a U.S. serviceman was killed. What is your understanding now about what we're up to in Iraq?
Well, we continue to have the same policy that's not working. There's just no long-term strategy in place to defeat ISIS. We had a service member that was killed, Special Forces service member that was killed. You know, this is a horrible situation. We don't want it to happen, but I think the family should know, what I've been told is that it was heroic actions that he took. There was the Kurds, our longest and strongest ally in the region, who requested our assistance to go in and stop 70 people from being massacred. And so the Secretary of Defense has said that he's going to do more of this, and I believe we should do more of this. But at the same time, we need to have a strategy laid out by the President of the United States that tells us exactly how we're going to kill and defeat ISIS.
All right, Chairman Devin Nunes, thanks so much
Thanks,
for being
John.
with us.